Welcome to the Learning Ideas Conference interview for the February winter event on creativity in learning design. I'm David Guralnick, and I am pleased to have with me Nicholas Cifuentes-Goodbody. Nicholas is the Chief Data Scientist at WorldQuant University. And Nicholas, it's great to have you here.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be able to participate.
Great. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you're doing, because I know you're teaching data science and doing some things in a very interesting way. So can you tell us a little bit about your audience and your course and kind of how you're approaching it?
Yeah, so maybe to zoom out for a second, the idea behind WorldQuant University is that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And so we're trying to figure out ways to open up avenues of opportunity for talented students, specifically in either financial engineering, where we have a master's in financial engineering, or in the course that I design and teach, which is a certificate course in data science. And the way our course works is we have about 10,000 enrolled students, and I would say during a given quarter, 3,000 to 4,000 of them are active. Our students come from all over the world, but we have an especially big focus in West Africa and Southeast Asia. And the idea for our data science course is it's a self-paced, project-based curriculum where students take on real-world data science projects using real-world data sets and learn not only the theory behind what data science is, but also, again, how to apply those skills in real life.
Great. Well, let's maybe take a step back then and talk about how the course experience is. So if I'm a student coming into this course, I've signed up for this, I'm going to start on my own. What do I do?
Yeah, this is really great because it gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about the kind of underlying philosophy of the course. The first thing is you come in and you take your entrance exam. And then when you are teaching a technical subject like programming in Python for data science, and you're teaching it to thousands of students, consistency is really, really important. And so on the one hand, when a student joins our program, we give them a virtual machine. And that's basically, well, oftentimes when you're first teaching a learner how to program, you ask them to install all these different pieces of software on their computer. And if they're just learning to program, that's too high of a barrier of entry. And so we give them a computer where I've installed everything. Everyone has the same machine. If it works in the teaching videos, it's definitely going to work on your computer. And so that way we can have consistency. So on the one hand, we have consistency through the virtual machines. And then on the other hand, we use this kind of approach, which we're calling curriculum as code. And this comes from, it's kind of borrowed from the term infrastructure as code. So people who are working in cloud services, it's the idea that all of the kind of databases and computers and all sorts of other pieces of, say, a website or an application, all of that information is kind of stored in a flat file where you can see exactly what you need to run the website. Well, we do the same thing. So all of our curriculum lives in one central repository where we test it to make sure that it works. And if ever we need to make an update, we do it through a kind of peer review and merging process. And then as soon as we push out that update, all of our thousands of students get that new curriculum. So really, consistency is the name of the game, kind of right out of the gate. Now, when it comes to the experience, what happens is a student will be given their virtual machine and they will work through a series of programming exercises interspaced with videos, which we call code-along videos. So mostly it's me showing you how to do the coding, telling you what's important, telling you what to kind of look at. And you will move through the curriculum. And then when you get to an assessment, we've also built a library which will assess students' answers. So is the data in your spreadsheet correct? Are you getting the right result? And we try to give students meaningful feedback to kind of, it's not right or wrong, but rather what seems to be the problem and where do you want to investigate? And so students can kind of move through the curriculum in this linear fashion, but this is really important. We talk about teaching linear models, right, in data science, but it's important to remember that learning isn't linear, right? And so in addition to moving sequentially through these projects, students, if they get stuck, can follow kind of hyperlinks if they need to understand a little bit more this particular skill versus, or this particular task. And so we have a project-based sequence on the one hand, and then for users who need it, we have the subject organized sequence on the other hand. And the student can move back and forth between the two as they see fit.
It's great. No, that makes life a lot easier. Are all of the projects then code project? Is there anything that's not a coding project? Is there anything where there's a little more subjectivity that might be needed?
Yeah, well, I guess what I would say is that in data science, when you're coding, there's still a lot of subjectivity, right? And so what we try to do is everything is really about coding, building a predictive model, building an interactive dashboard, but we try to also add kind of those more subjective pieces in along the way. That idea of kind of interleaving the information. And so, for example, you might build a model to predict whether a building in Nepal will suffer severe damage in an earthquake. But along the way, you'll also learn about the importance of using a predictive model like that ethically, right? So that it doesn't discriminate against certain castes or certain groups. So we kind of try to mix everything in together.
In terms of the certificate, is that something that people receive for completing all the modules, or is there a final assessment or final exam that they have to take before they can get the certificate?
Right. No, there's no cumulative exam. So once you complete that final project, you get that certificate, and it's a digital certificate, so it can be shared on social media and that sort of stuff. And this year, our big push is that in addition to the kind of straightforward curriculum that we have, we want to build what we're calling portfolio pieces, where a student will be able to create kind of a smaller data science project or deliverable that they'll be able to share either on their GitHub page or, far and wide on social media.
That sounds great. Let me ask a related question based on what you just said. Have you found that people are able to leverage the certificate when it comes to looking for jobs? Is that something that they're able to use to help them find a job that's a good fit for them and have more opportunities?
Yeah, at this point, the data that I have on that is more anecdotal than anything else. But I can say that I have heard from data scientists who are working at Apple telling me, oh, this is exactly what I need. Or I've heard recently from a student who got into a job interview and was speaking about how they would build the model, kind of the process that they would follow. And all of a sudden, the interviewer interrupted them and said, wait a second, did you take the WorldQuant data science certificate? Because you're talking just like they do in that course. And it turned out that they had both taken it. So, again, I think that we are making progress. I would like to be able to analyze that a little bit more quantitatively than I can. And this, I think, is also really interesting. You raise a really interesting subject, is that when it comes to giving students these applied skills, oftentimes you're deploying your educational content in many different economic and kind of job market contexts. And so it's like the experience that a student will have in India trying to find a job with a certificate is going to be very different from someone in the United States, for example.
That absolutely makes sense. And it just sounds like a program that so many people can benefit from. And it's got the practical application is really, really nice. And they've also, they are learning by doing through it. So you're not just telling them theory about data science, but they're really producing things which, as in your interview example, is really going to help, right? They're going to be able to describe how to actually do something in a way that's going to make an interviewer think like they can step in and hit the ground running and really do the job right away, which I imagine is critical.
Yeah. And, this also kind of broaches the idea of self-regulated learning. You can always follow the code along videos and figure out the answer. But what we're also trying to teach students are those skills, like when you hit that bug, when you hit that blocker, how do you go out and find that answer, right? So ideas about data literacy, parsing social media text, that sort of thing. So kind of pairing those two things together.
Great. And in terms of the overall sort of design process for this course, if we can think back to when you started to put this course together, what drove you to putting this course together, and what made you sort of see the need and think about this has obviously been a successful course for so many people, made you think about this as the experience design that you thought was going to be, the right thing for this audience?
Yeah, I would say that the kind of major driver for me is, and this is a little bit of background on myself, I didn't start life as a data scientist. I was actually a Spanish literature professor for many, many years, Latin American literature to be specific. And I pivoted in my career. And as I kind of did that pivot, I ran into so many people who were also trying to pivot in their careers or skill up in their careers. And doing those kind of full graduate degrees were not really adequate for the task, right? They really needed to pivot more quickly and they needed a little bit more flexibility. And so on the one hand, that's something that I wanted to do. And then on the other hand, what really drove me about this course is having worked at a couple different boot camp style academies, I found that either you had very good technical support to the student where they would, all have the same virtual machines, they would all have the same curriculum, or you might have a somewhat good teaching approach, but I didn't find a place that had a really solid technical platform to deliver the course and also had kind of sound instructional design principles. So things like backwards design, student learning outcomes, an aligned curriculum. And so really bringing those two things together was what really kind of drove me to do this course and to do it in a way that was highly, highly applied for the students so that they could take what they did and then kind of show other people those projects and apply them to projects and data sets that were interesting to them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the technical platform as being a key. Was that something that you designed and your team had a team built from scratch for this purpose, or were you able to leverage something that already existed at WorldQuant or elsewhere?
Yeah. Previously, WorldQuant used a Moodle or a Moodle clone to deliver the courses, but we did build a platform in-house. And so part of that platform is going to be the kind of more traditional, your Canvas, your Moodles, and then the other side of that is that we have this cloud of virtual machines that students can access as well. So, yep, it's something we did in-house. And I should say, if anyone from WorldQuant University is listening to this, it was an enormous amount of work, and I'm just so thankful and so proud of everyone who pitched in.
No, it sounds fantastic. So one last question before we wrap on. Are there any other areas where you feel like, here's a great next step for us? We've got this, successful project that's already out. People are using it. It's going really well. Here's where we want to go next. So along with assessments, where else do you see yourself going from here on this?
Yeah. So on the one hand, I'm not only teaching and designing this data science curriculum, I'm also doing all the data science work for WorldQuant University. And so one big step that we'll be doing this year is taking all of the learning analytics that are coming from our platform, bringing them into a data warehouse and really leveraging them not only for reports so that administrators and teachers can get insight into how students are moving through the curriculum, but also, and I am so excited about this, is using machine learning to aid students, right, to increase student completion of the platform. So whether it's identifying a student who you think is going to bounce and intervening in a way that'll bring them back, or whether it's kind of adapting on the fly to a student as they're sending submissions into their grader. Those are things that really make me excited. So that's something I definitely want to do. And we also need to increase our offerings, deepen, and in terms of depth and in terms of width. So I feel like there is really nothing but work that we want to do this year. And I'm really looking forward to it.
It sounds exciting. It sounds like you're in a great place already and so many interesting possibilities to add on from here, which is a great position to be in. So I think that's going to wrap us up for this. Nicholas, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. You're really doing something phenomenally interesting and really excited to hear about it.
Well, no, thank you so much. It's so exciting to be able to talk to you about it and to kind of share this with other educators who are in this space. And if anyone ever wants to reach out to me and chat about the work they're doing or learn more about what we're doing at WorldQuant University, they can go to wqu.edu and they can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm NC Goodbody almost everywhere, or you can just Google Nicholas Cifuentes-Goodbody and I'll definitely pop up.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Thanks again, Nicholas. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you so much.